You're listening to the Decor8 podcast with Patrick Ali and Chad Poole.
So what's up, man?
Not much, dude.
You decorated some stuff over here?
Seeing my little mistake from earlier? So
Yeah.
let me explain before you get upset. Let me explain what
upset.
happened. Okay, well, I just want to explain. We're setting up, and as our listeners know, we're setting up cameras and stuff like that, and we're testing out some new technology, just stuff to make the podcast, the listening, and viewing experience better.
Yep.
Well, I ordered some security cam, like you can see the one down the corner. Ordered some security cam brackets for your house, and I didn't have a way to mount it because I didn't get any 3M tape or anything. So I figured I would just drill a hole in your desk.
Well, honestly, if you used 3M tape just to mount it,
Yeah.
I'd be less impressed than you accidentally drilling a hole in my desk.
Right. Well, and that's so whatever. I found out afterwards, and the reason why you get mad at me is that I found out afterwards, GoPro, what the camera that we're trying to test out and see how it works for us, they came with mounts that already had 3M tape. So it was unnecessary why I drilled a hole. It's completely unnecessary why I drilled a hole in your desk.
Just gives me a good reason to cover it with something, I guess.
There you go. That's awesome. Well, anyway, let's hop in deeper into the episode here.
What episode are we on, by the way?
This is episode 13.
Man,
No.
Lucky 13.
Unlucky
through.
for sure.
No. It's lucky. I'm excited about it. We had a really cool show last week with Mallory Varner.
The split show.
Yeah, it was an odd one. It was odd because it's just editing is tough for that because we had Mallory in studio, which did a fantastic job from GSG. And then we did an episode with Peyton via Zoom and Stephanie Granberry, Peyton's mom. And we also had Mallory in the Zoom. And so, trying to organize all of that, it's oh, wait, she's in the studio, and then all of a sudden she's at home. But it's two completely separate recordings that we cut together.
One episode.
One episode, yeah. So this will be episode 13.
And that's coming out by the time this airs, will be coming out today.
Yes.
Yeah, you had to think about that. Put your brain to use there.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, fine, whatever. Anyways, introduce our guest, man, so we can get into this, 'cause I'm excited about this episode.
So, today, thank you for coming, Steve. We've got Steve Jackson from Trevco. Patrick, I don't know if you know this, but Steve used to be a very influential person in my career. He's a former mentor of mine, former boss of mine, so I expect to get picked on quite a bit here. So, got my bulletproof vest on and ready to roll.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is the first time you guys have ever met.
It is.
It is the first time, and it was funny when you were out because you grabbed some waters and went to the bathroom. We were basically just saying oh wow, we connected so well. I don't even know why I was ever friends with Chad. I should have been friends with you all along. So it's kind of nice. So thanks.
You try to help some people along, and they just don't listen.
Hey, listen. When you say it's a mentor of yours, you know this, man. That resonates with me a lot. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
And obviously, making him as knowledgeable as he is, so that we can do the show, and then he passes down his knowledge to me. So
I just put it out there, and he's got the whole ability behind it.
Good.
You look for people that can understand things
Yeah.
quickly, that learn quickly and adapt to it, and that's how I found this guy.
awesome.
Well, thanks, guys.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah.
Making me blush over here.
I got to say, though, long-time listener, first time on the show.
Ah,
really
yes.
happy to be here.
Yeah, we found out you were a top fan.
Yeah, I'm a top fan. I
Early-
haven't put
actually,
the badge
early.
up yet, but
Early subscriber. Early subscriber of the podcast. So that's actually cool. I want to hop into your story, though, just right off the bat. So, obviously we always lay out some notes and stuff. You have a military background?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Actually, interesting little thing with that. The other day on the 16th was my 30-year point. So when you retire from the military, say at 20 years, you're retired, but you're on the inactive reserve until you hit the 30-year point. So just this last September 16, I am officially 100% retired.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's a
Well,
kind of crazy
congratulations on
stuff.
that.
Thanks.
Yeah, my brother is, I think, 7 or 8 years now.
Out.
Which branch?
Retired. Army.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He left CID, so he got a little opportunity to have a cool title when he left, I guess.
And now he lives in West Virginia.
And now he lives in West Virginia. Good old West Virginia. It's funny. Have you ever seen the documentary, the Wacky and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia?
I have. That is
Chad's
a rabbit hole of weirdness, isn't it?
Chad's never seen it before.
Really?
I'm out.
And
man.
I showed him.
Out of all the movies you watch and all the crazy stuff out there,
that freaks me out, man.
It's-
The one guy started barking like a dog.
Yeah.
the whole
Freak
thing
me.
is crazy.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah.
that. It can be. It
makes you wonder.
If it's fake, like that's fine, but knowing that's real, like that just. He was showing me the trailer. I got 2 minutes into it. I'm like,
Yeah,
you
good.
I
Couldn't
don't
do
think
it.
there's a single thing faked in that one.
No,
Really?
that's why
Oh,
it freaks me out. You know me and my stuff. I'm like, get it out of here. And we were in a car, so I'm like rolling down the window, like just get
Okay,
it.
you're getting bothered by that?
Yeah, I don't like
Well,
it.
I had to listen. To Jericho's podcast for 9
We'll
hours.
plug Jericho. He might come on.
Maybe, no, probably not. Probably not. We had to listen to that
Hey,
forever, so I was like,
I did get
show.
Steve on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast.
You did?
for a
You
little
did?
bit.
Is that still going? Because he
I
shut
think
it down for a while. I thought.
Yeah, I think he's taking a little break. He's probably doing something, creating a new beer or something cool.
He's doing all kinds of things cool. But anyways, you're military. What branch of the military?
Navy.
Navy? Okay.
So I joined right out of high school,
Mm-hmm.
18 years old, went to boot camp, and I was a nuclear engineer.
Oh,
of all
really?
things.
Oh,
So
nice.
I
Yeah,
spent,
he's pretty smart, I guess.
Yeah.
on some things. Other things I'm pretty stupid on, so I'm willing to admit that.
Yeah.
I spent almost 2 years in training, and that's
Yeah.
a typical pipeline for anybody before you ever get to a C billet.
Yeah.
I specialized in engineering laboratory technician, which does the chemistry and the radiological controls for the reactor plant.
Okay.
So that was my specialty in it. They have like machinist mates and electricians and electronics technicians. So everybody has their own portion of it, but you have to learn the entire system.
Yeah.
One of the schools that you go to, nuclear power school, is a 6-month course that they say is the equivalent of a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So it's intimidating, to say
Yeah.
the least. The first day of school, they get you in this huge auditorium, and you have a high-ranking officer there, and he tells everybody, look to the person on your left, look to the person on your right, and realize that they won't be there on the day when you graduate, and somebody just looked at you.
Well, that's
Really?
intimidating.
Yeah. So we had over 300 people, I think, in the class when we started, and I think we graduated under 60.
Wow.
So it's got the highest attrition rate educational school out of anything in the military.
Oh, wow.
So tough course.
Yeah.
It worked well with me. I had a little bit of a rough time in there, but I got through okay. And then
Yeah.
you go to a prototype facility, you learn the actual plant. I got my specialty school after that, and then I ended up on a submarine.
Oh,
That was
really?
my first billet.
Before you joined the military, and I know we've probably talked about this a long time ago, but this is something I don't even know. When you said 18, right?
Yep.
Right at high school, you went. Was Navy it? Like, was nuclear engineering it, or
Yeah, I was
did you
gonna
have to
ask, how'd
find
you
your
do
way? To,
You know, that's a great question because I didn't want anything to do with the military. Well, when I was in high school up until my junior year.
And the reason I asked this, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the reason I asked this is I
Yeah, you
think
did.
that the reason I ask it is because within this industry, almost a lot of people that you and I know, including you, never really meant to get into this industry.
Right.
So
it was always by chance.
that's
Not-
why
not
I
even
was
close.
kind of asking,
Yeah.
did you have a game plan going in?
And the military came along because I grew up in Durand. I don't know if either of you guys know where that's at. It's here in
Country.
Michigan. It's
No.
yeah, we had 80 people in my graduating class.
Really?
Yep.
Super small. If you
So
weren't
look to your left and look to your right. One person.
you're related to one of them.
You're related to somebody.
No, we if you weren't in the Future Farmers of America, something was wrong with you in high
Really?
school. It was very high in agriculture.
Yeah.
Just a very small school.
Yeah.
But I didn't see much going on in the area.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a farm. My dad was a police officer. My mom a nurse. I wanted to go to a technical school,
Yeah.
meaning like some sort of science degree or something like that. And I didn't really see a way to afford that or be able to get
Mm-hmm.
into it. And a friend of mine joined the Navy and got into the nuke program, and he was telling me all about it. So I was like, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm like, I'd always thought, if I'm going to go in the military, I'm not going to go on something that is in the middle of the ocean and has zero support.
Yeah.
You think about, okay, if it sinks, I'm swimming around
Yeah.
out there, and I'm pretty much done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I went.
Oh my God! So talk about that though. That's interesting. So you were in a submarine. Was pretty much your first deployment then?
Well, you do rotations, tours.
Okay.
So a tour, I went to a submarine for my first tour. That
Yeah.
ended up being, I think, 3.5, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
But a deployment is when you leave your home port and you're gone for an extended
Got
period
it,
of time
got
and you
it,
come
okay.
back. So I got to the submarine, I think it was in like November time frame or something like that. And we went on our first deployment within, I believe, a month and a half. It was really quick, just because the submarine that was supposed to go on that deployment had a major mechanical issue and couldn't go. And we were what they call the ready sub. So we were all set to go on the next rotation. So we ended up taking theirs.
Oh, wow.
And I was gone from home port for 6 months.
What year was this?
That was 1992.
And where were you now when you joined the service? They put you up in housing, correct?
Barracks. Okay. So single people go to the barracks. You're living, it's like I don't know, almost like a dorm.
Yeah.
You share a room with a couple other people and
enjoy your time off while you can.
Not so much.
No.
When I was in Nuke Power School, you do an 8-hour day of class and then sometimes anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of homework every night.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the manuals are like 3,000 pages themselves. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's only one section.
Yeah.
They have rooms on the submarine or the aircraft carrier that are dedicated to just keeping all of our manuals and instructions and everything else.
So
it's a lot.
With the barracks, how many times were you relocated within the states of like different?
Well, the barracks was just for power school prototype facility. That's an actual operating plant that you go to and you learn how to operate the plant and you do casualty training and all this kind of stuff. There they don't have a barracks because it's a smaller command. So they would give us a housing allowance and I think 3 other guys and myself, we rented a house and we had a pretty good time there. It wasn't barracks.
So that's where I was thinking of. Yes, not the barracks. It was post.
They got a little crazy at times.
Yeah.
But so does that depend on where you're stationed, where you're deployed from? So
a little bit. So it depends on 2 things: where you're stationed, if there's a barracks facility available, and the second would be if you're married.
Oh yeah.
So even if there's a barracks facility available and you're married, you're going to get a housing allowance when you live off base.
Yeah.
Some bases have a housing area for military personnel. So they'll have like either condos or little houses that you can get in the rotation for and stuff. I did that once.
Essentially Harrison Township for Selfridge.
Well, yeah, for around here.
Yeah.
So how many different different areas of the country were you based in?
Not a lot. For nuke engineers like myself, they kind of try to keep you on one coast or another.
Okay.
And there's very few places that you can rotate through. So there's submarines, aircraft carriers. There's a prototype facility in New York where I was an instructor a couple of tours. Prototype facility down in South Carolina. And at the time when I came in, there was one out in Idaho, but they closed that one down.
Thank God.
It was kind of middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't.
So you kind of rotated through these places. And Norfolk, Virginia was a big one. San Diego, California was a big one. And they don't like to do cross-country as much because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
sure.
Trying to keep the budgeting down. So a lot of times I was an East Coast sailor, meaning I was up and down the East Coast. I went to duty stations around there, or I was a West Coast.
Okay.
So you can kind of categorize that. So I rotated pretty much through. The first training for me was down in Florida. Then I went actually to Connecticut for my prototype facility training, which that one shut down now.
I remember where that one is.
Up by Hartford.
Hartford. Yeah.
So I was up there, and then I went to the submarine in Norfolk, and then I went back to New York where they had a prototype facility, and I was an instructor there, and then back down to Norfolk. My second sea tour was on an aircraft carrier, so I got to see both the sub and surface end of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
which is kind of cool.
Overall, and I know after you retired initially, you spent pretty much your home base was in New York, but before all that, where was your favorite place that you were quote unquote stationed at?
Favorite place stationed? Connecticut was kind of cool because it was small and I was early into it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Norfolk at all. A lot of people in the military, especially the Navy, don't care for Norfolk. They're, it's too saturated in this. But I had a lot of friends in the area that were outside the military. We'd go down to Virginia Beach.
It's coastal.
We had a good time down there. And the houses I rented with people that I was stationed with, they kind of became party houses.
Yeah.
It was always a good time. My wife, she would come down from college to visit, and sometimes she would make the remark that, okay, you guys have crazier parties than we do in college.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I was like, well, this is just Friday night.
This is the boys. This is the boys.
You should see Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Those are crazy.
That's awesome.
So I wanna kind of go into basically coming from a military background and a very cool military background. I mean, I've only seen videos of like the inside of a submarine. Seems very cramped.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit cramped in there. But coming from that lifestyle, where does your introduction to the industry, where do you go from there?
Well, before we go there,
okay.
just a quick segue, and we can edit this stuff out if we want to, because it might go a little deep in the weeds. But you're talking about your fascination with being a submarine.
Yeah.
How long were you under?
So the longest I was under the water without either going, they call it periscope or snorkel depth, because they'll raise a snorkel mast and you can exchange air volume and run the diesels and stuff like that. A little over 3 months without surfacing.
Imagine that.
And
how deep were you? How deep were you?
Well, I cannot say.
Oh.
Wait on that. I can say.
All right.
I can neither confirm nor deny that we can go in excess of 400 feet.
Wow.
Which there's a set of books out there. You can look them up online. Jane's, what is it? Jane's Nautical Books or something like that. But Jane's is the grouping of it. They do a lot of military and nautical stuff.
Yeah.
They list other countries' ships and the specifications on it, and I was always impressed at how accurate their stuff was. Which kind of translates over ours is accurate. So people can look that up. And I think Tom Clancy in one of his books, the nonfiction one, Blind Man's Bluff, he put in there, I believe, 800 feet. Wow. And that was cleared by the Department of Defense. Really? But I know when I was on the sub, they were always saying you can't say anything other than neither confirm nor deny in excess of 400 feet.
Wow. But even if, that's incredible to think of, like I'm getting claustrophobic thinking about that.
I can tell you're going like this.
Yeah, I'm getting claustrophobic just thinking about that.
What do you look out the window and you see sharks?
Well, because now the walls in this studio are closing.
I love that. But the first time I came back from the sub, visiting my family, my mom's like, "So what's it like down there? What's it look like?"
Dark.
I said,
"Yeah, turn the lights off in the room."
What do you mean? She's like, "Well, what's it look like when you look out?" I'm like, "This isn't like 100,000 leagues into the sea or anything like this." There's no windows. To look at. Yeah, there's no windows on this thing. Yeah. My first deployment, you'll appreciate this. They have the different bunk rooms and stuff, and you do something called hot racking, which means you have 3 people for 2 bunks.
Oh, really?
So you're rotating out.
Oh.
And why they call it hot racking is when somebody's getting out, another person's about to get in to sleep. It's not quite that bad.
Yeah.
But my first deployment, I didn't even earn that. I got a bunk that was in the torpedo room.
Oh, God.
And I slept next to a Mark 48 torpedo. I named her Bertha.
Wow. Oh, my God.
She was my gal for the underway.
I'm going to freak out. Yeah.
Actually, that's probably the biggest open room on board the submarine.
Well, I've seen a video.
You're just next to a giant torpedo.
Just giant torpedo.
I mean, it's not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a video of somebody took, I think, a GoPro or something. They went down like a torpedo shaft to show you what it looks like, and it's eerie, man.
In some submarines, that's a rite of passage to crawl down the torpedo tube and mark the inner door. And then crawl back on out. And of course, if you're in there and trying to crawl down to that, somebody will close it and lock it all up and mess with you. There is.
Do you have any connections?
I might have to go outside for a minute.
It's claustrophobic enough in this room.
Yeah, it's already claustrophobic enough. That's incredible, though. I mean, I've always been fascinated. Like I said, my brother spent 13 years in the military. And, I've always been fascinated with military life, and I have quite a few friends. I actually wanted to enlist myself at one point in time to be a combat medic. So, I've been very engulfed and fascinated with the history of military history and just so, to hear those kind of stories are really cool.
Well,
really, really cool.
I know you were really taken aback by Russ had a 9/11 story.
Yeah.
Well, as of today, 9/11 was 12 days ago.
Yeah.
We won't get too deep into it, but you had one as well.
I was on the USS George Washington, and I was I was a senior enlisted guy running a department on the carrier, and one of my guys came into the room, and we had satellite TV when you're out to sea, so we're off the coast of Virginia Beach at that time, and he said, "You got to turn on the TV, something crazy's happening," and we turn on CNN. And you can see, the smoke coming from the first tower, and everybody's like, was this an accident? What happened?
Yeah.
So we all start watching it at that point, and we watched the second plane hit the second tower, and that's when it got real quiet in the room. And I remember one of my guys saying, "That wasn't an accident."
Yeah.
So we were the ready carrier at that point off of the coast, which meant that we were working up for our next deployment, and we were pretty much set to do anything.
And you said you were on the east side too, right?
We're on the east side. So I had one of my guys was going for a qualification board with our reactor officer at the time, and being his leading petty officer, I went with him to that qualification board to help ask questions and kind of moderate a little bit. And I remember going into that qualification board, and as we were going in, we were watching one of the towers crumble.
Wow, man!
And the reactor officer on board an aircraft carrier, he's the third in command. You got the CO, the XO, and then the reactor officer. He's a full bird captain most of the time on the carriers. And halfway through the interview, his yeoman knocked on the door and said, "Excuse me, sir, the XO and CO would like you in the war room."
Whoa.
So he told me to continue what we were doing, and he would be back as soon as he could. So we kind of, what the heck's going on here?
War room. Yeah.
It's a briefing room.
Okay, it
It's,
still
you know,
scares me. I'm like,
We would consider it a conference room.
it's like the podcast room.
It's
yeah.
a podcast. No.
So he came back, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes later, and he came back into the room, sat down. We were going through some question and answer type stuff, qualification. And at one point, I finally turned to him and said, I got to ask her, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he said, we're going to New York.
Yeah.
And we, very shortly after that, the engine ripped on up. You could feel the whole ship turning.
Wow.
We turned and headed up to New York City. They brought airplanes, weapons, armament, everything, flew it on to us as we're headed up there. And September 12th, we were in New York Harbor. I could see Ground Zero.
Wow.
And you've seen the picture, actually.
Yeah.
There was a helicopter that was off of the carrier when we were up in the harbor there. And it was our jets flying over the city. You know, people look up and go, that's a military flight.
Yeah.
And, you know, we sent some security personnel, medical personnel. We became basically like, I don't know if it was 100%, we were NORAD for the East Coast, but we were a command center for the East Coast. And this helicopter's up there and took a picture of the aircraft carrier in the harbor. And the background, when you look at it, half of the whole background is smoky and hazy.
Really?
And that's where Ground Zero was, and the wind was blowing it across.
Wow.
And I hang that in my office. I had it in the office when you and I used to work together. And, you know, people don't catch it until you point it out to them, and they're like,
Oh,
wow.
that's real.
you know,
Yeah.
and I was there. I was able to actually do something.
Yeah.
You guys remember, everybody's like, well, I got to do something. What can I do? You know, how can I help out?
Yeah.
And it was, we were providing support to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were able to actually do something to help out. And that was a
Yeah.
huge feeling. That's my number one proudest moment when I was in the military.
Well, and I posted on 9/11 just on social media. I do it every year, and most of the time I just share my post because it's typically the same story every time. My brother left for basic on 9/11 in the morning, so he left at like 4:45. Recruiters came to pick him up, and then I remember when the first tower went down. Right after that, our principal came on the thing, said, "Hey, turn on the news. You know, everybody turn on the whatever channel you want. Just turn on the news." And then we watched as the second tower. By that time, I think it was like 9:40, 9:45, something like that, is when the second tower actually went down or was hit, one of the two. And like right after that, I remember my mom picked me up from school, and we went out to eat, and my aunt was with us, and you know, she's playing around with me at the table because she wants me to be distracted, and everybody in the restaurant is kind of has the same look on their face. Is not really. They're all adults, but I can tell something's going on. But I'm a little kid. Not to age you, but I was born in '92, so just so you know. But it was.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, sorry. But you know, luckily for him, you know, he wasn't on his way to Benning at that time. They had stopped whatever, let everybody go home for the night, and then they left the next morning. But he had like an 18-month layover in basic at that time because they just
Well, they stopped everything. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Take a look at something like that, and now in COVID, look at where we're at.
Yeah.
Things have stopped.
Yeah.
You know, they're not sending the same amount of people to basic or to boot camp or anything like that. You know, I don't know. Your kids definitely aren't old enough for school yet. Are your kids?
Yes, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Both are in school.
Yeah, virtual school stinks.
Yeah, no, that's why we didn't choose to do it. We did in school.
It is rough. We've got 2 of the 3 at home that are doing it, and 2 of the 3 that are doing really well, and one of them's just really struggling.
Yeah.
It's the technology block, and it's this constant attraction to do whatever you want on there,
Yeah.
and you don't focus on what you need to do.
Right.
But when is school going to go back to normal?
Yeah.
It's that same thing of a country kind of immobilized to a certain extent. And my wish through all of this stuff is that the country would mobilize like we did back then.
Yeah.
Well, come
And it was-
together, right?
yeah, it was
all
yeah,
about.
we're not
becoming
doing that
one.
right now.
No,
It's
we're
just so tough.
separating.
Yeah.
We're separating.
So
We're
tough.
on either side. So, what was how tense was the ship? Like, was it
Wasn't
scary?
it wasn't tense.
It wasn't
actually.
like it was the opposite of what we would think.
I had a really good friend of mine on the carrier, and he left probably, I think, a couple months before this incident. And I can remember I sent him an email, and he sent it back to me years and years after and said, "Hey, remember this?"
Yeah.
He was saying, "I wish I could be there. I feel like I left
Wow.
and want to be there." And I wrote him back saying, "This is the smoothest I've ever seen it. Nobody's bitching at anybody. Nobody's complaining about something. As the leading petty officer, I could go to somebody and go, 'Hey, I'm sorry, but I need you to do this.'"
Yeah.
And there was no argument or anything. It was Roger that. I
We all
got
had
it.
to work together.
You know, and we were a cohesive unit. It was
Yeah.
the best operations I've ever had in my military career. And it was because we all saw that we had to come together.
Yeah.
This was just a need, and we had to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, after that somber moment, sorry I had to add.
No,
well, I know you
I'm
said
okay
that
with that
you,
though, man,
you
because
were,
it's so relevant, especially for the time right now.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
talking
it's
about,
less than a little over a week ago that it happened. And
Yeah.
I know you were interested in Russ's story, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he was
Well,
out there.
We'll talk more offline about it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but you were asking about what's relevant to most of our listeners is how'd you get involved in this
Yeah.
So I was stationed
from a nuclear engineer?
Yeah, kind of went opposite there. I always make the joke in high school when I was first thinking about what career I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Michigan, loved the outdoors, wanted to be a forest ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I went into nuclear power on a submarine.
Right. Yeah. A little different
Furthest away
DNR.
you can get,
Yeah.
You might have gone the opposite there, buddy.
Yeah.
For that portion of it was opportunity and education, right? When I was in the military towards the end of my career, we were stationed in upstate New York. My wife and I wanted to open some sort of business.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a good friend of ours, shout out Jen Dugan,
Shout out to Jen.
showed us her setup. She was doing embroidery from home. And we're sitting there going, we could do this. So we started an extra room in our house. I got an embroidery machine. We were both volunteer firefighters and EMTs. You're a medic, right? Or
Yeah,
EMT,
was,
medic?
Yeah,
Right.
I was an EMT. Yep.
We were both in the fire department and doing all that. So we're like, well, we'll focus on that. You know, hey, job shirts, right?
Yeah.
Tons
the
of that stuff.
easiest
And
way.
all the fire departments got to have your shirts, got to have your job shirt, got to have the jacket, got to have the hat. You know, got to wahoo it up.
And listen, you don't get that much allowance to get that stuff. I'll be honest with you.
But they'll pay for it
Yeah.
out
Right.
of their pocket on
Yeah.
top of that.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
and we were in that same group. We were
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So that was our target market, and we built up from that. And over the course of 10 years, Jen developed the business into almost $500,000 a year.
Wow.
And it started in a single embroidery machine in a spare bedroom in our house.
Yeah.
Neither of us had any experience in the industry.
Yeah.
I had to learn Corel Draw. I had to learn digitizing software for embroidery. I became the machine maintenance tech,
Yeah.
IT guru, everything. So I was doing full-time as an instructor at the prototype facility in the Navy, and then coming home and doing all the other stuff.
Something happened.
That's fine.
Yeah, something's
That one's
mad at us
fine.
over there.
Yeah.
So I really, feet
Just
to the fire.
test your nuclear engineering skills. There's a grenade live over here.
No, I think
No,
it's
that's the reactor
thing,
meltdown notification.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So you had a lot to learn trial by error there. Trial by fire, really. So with that said, you guys started off in a bedroom, started off mainly with embroidery. I know eventually you would go down to the road to digital, a lot of digital and anything in between with vinyl cutters, whatever else. But how long did it take you from going from a single room in the house to storefront?
Yeah.
A few years. Okay. I think probably close to 3.
Okay.
Because in the beginning, you're doing, maybe a couple fire departments, some friends. You pick up
It's all
some
word of
lawn
mouth.
care guy. It's just little bits here and there, and you're also learning a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to the Atlantic City trade show and got down there, and I saw a screen print setup, and I'm like, we can do this.
Yeah.
So I rented a Penske truck, bought the floor model,
Yeah.
and trucked it all the way back
Yeah.
up to New York from there, and then went, oh crap,
Where am I going to put
what
this?
are we doing? So crash course on how do I expose the screen.
Yeah.
They showed me, maybe a little bit at the trade show floor, but I had no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And YouTube wasn't as big back then.
Sure.
It wasn't like you could go searching for videos on stuff. So it was
Right.
trying to get any information I can. A lot of mistakes. I can remember we were doing it was a 4-station press, and I think it was a 5-color job with the white underbase. So 4 plus that. So we were kind of jimmy rigging the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the job was going horrible. And it was probably 2 o'clock in the morning. Crazy hot in our basement. We had a walkout basement, but we had fans going and everything. And my wife turned to me and said, we are never doing this again.
Sell it off.
Take it back.
Get rid of it.
And that's when we found transfers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And started also trying to talk to customers and going, hey, that's a great logo, but you got 16 colors in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you way too much. Maybe we can do some creative design work with it. Maybe we can change some of the aspects of it, make it a little bit better. You do a cut vinyl and you have this teeny tiny lettering in something. How about we do a print portion of that and incorporate it in like a little banner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the Maltese cross on
Contour it
the
or-
left chest, and I want to put that underneath. Well, now I don't have to weed that out.
Yeah.
Right.
I can make it a lot simpler for it. And then mixing up ways. I might do a little screen print here for it, or do different types of heat transfer. I could do like a cut and weed vinyl and then go to a print and cut vinyl to get certain portions of it. So it was getting creative and learning the different processes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's really interesting too, because you're taking the mindset of, not only am I busy, I've got another job, but this is a really growing revenue maker for you guys. Yeah. How do I involve less labor? So it's, without, you could still utilize everything you have with the cut onlys and stuff like that. But if I can get away without getting into cavities and taking time less weeding, it's you're utilizing the equipment that you have. That's kind of interesting way to learn it.
And I think a lot of people learn that in trial by fire. You first get into the industry, somebody shows you some cutting and weeding, and you don't mind necessarily doing that fine detail.
Everybody loves weeding at first, right?
Yeah. Years ago, and you may remember this, I put out on a forum that I worked on and kind of administered for a while, that put out a challenge of the Aztec calendar, a 12 by 12 inch design, and said, who wants to cut and weed this thing? Yeah. And some guy did it.
Dude, you're like hurting my brain today, man. Submarines and tight spaces, the Aztec calendar. My first design was a 12 by 12, and that's why it's crazy. It was a 12 by 12 mandala style, like elephant head. And I did it in foil. Like I did it in like it's the worst. And this is the first time that I ever cut something out on a Cricut. And I was like, okay, let's go for the hardest thing. It's going to take the most time because I'd rather learn it the hard way.
I mean, he certainly learned it.
I swear every bit of 4 hours I sat and weeded that thing out because I had like part of it didn't cut all the way through, and it was like super miserable for me.
Well, wait, I have a shirt upstairs I'll show you.
Yeah.
But before we get too far into it, we used to travel quite a bit, Steve and I and our team. And I went to a company out in Vermont. What was it? The big volleyball slogan, "Get naked or be naked." Remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Where the hell are you going?
They were big in the 90s. They created this slogan, and it took off for just apparel wear. I think they were paired with British Knights at the time. I don't know. I'm dating myself too, but they were a really big company, and they just partnered with the UFC.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
They had to do all of these. John Bones Jones or whatever was the champion at the time, and he specifically wanted gold foil for all of his merch because it matched the gold belt, and they had to do this lion head, and this guy was like, and I was installing a print cut system. He's like, "You are saving my life right now," and he's like, "You have no idea." I'm like, "Well, that you can't really print metallic with this thing." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like,
"Well, you can, but it's going to wash out."
But it's like it's not what you're.
It's not what he's wanting.
What you're looking for, and he's like, "All right." I'm like, "You can use it for a ton of other things, man. Don't worry about it." He's like, "All right." He's like, "But do me a favor." He's like, "Just weed one of those jobs for me." I'm like, "All right, fair enough." So I actually did it, but I was about an hour into it, and I said, "Yeah, I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, hey man, I got stuff to do. But you had somebody do the Aztec calendar.
17 hours, I think. He posted it up on the forum and showed pictures of it in process and everything. God. So he wasn't joking. Then he pressed it on a shirt at the end.
That's incredible.
I can't imagine taking that amount of time. But I can also remember in the early times for our business, sitting at home at night, weeding design after design after design. And I used to teach the industry for the print cut systems and also Corel Draw and all that kind of stuff. And I always used to stress to people, your time is worth money.
Yeah. This episode of the Decor8 podcast is brought to you by Siser North America. Siser is the world leader in heat transfer and pressure sensitive vinyl. And I got to say, guys, that Siser products are simply unmatched. If you want to find out more about Siser North America, simply go into your browser and type in www.siserna.com. Or download the mobile app. They got a mobile app, dude. Download the mobile app, hit the drop-down menu, hit Find a Distributor, so you can find out where you can find Siser products today.
If you're sitting there watching TV, you're still putting the work in.
Yeah.
And people would undersell their products.
Yeah.
I hate to see a shirt where it has a ton of detail on it or a ton of work into it. And they're like, well, I wanted to be competitive with this or that, so I sold it for $5. And you're like, $5.
Yeah. Where's your overhead?
Yeah. And we would teach them, take a look at where your actual overhead is. How much is your time worth? And then that's when you look at, is it a good idea for me to do this? Or do I take it in, like I was saying before, change the design a little bit?
Yeah.
And it's hard to convince somebody to change their logo.
Right.
But sometimes if you give them some alternatives, especially in Corel or Illustrator or whatever,
simplified.
Mess around with it a little bit and go, well, this one's going to cost you $3. This
Right.
one's going to cost you $10.
Right.
Because of the amount of labor.
Well, in our market, for my wife and I, our market is a lot of custom wood signs, and right now the big thing is the welcome signs at your front door and stuff. So I do double-sided. But, a lot of the way that you stay competitive, and this is really for anybody listening, is like there's so many groups on Facebook, there's Pinterest, there's Etsy is a huge one to check pricing and stay competitive. But understand that, for a long time we were in this place where that's what we were trying to do. We're just trying to stay as competitive as possible. So we would sell 24-inch round sign for, $25. Well, everywhere on Etsy, that same 24-inch was $60, $70, and we didn't understand it. I'm getting pissed because it's taken me 3 days to do the sign because it's multiple color, and I do multi-layers too, and I paint everything, and use stencil to paint. So it's like we just couldn't find a happy medium in there, and then we finally got to a point where we're like, okay, maybe we start charging for our time too, because I think a lot of people, you're right. I think at first when you start your business, nobody wants to charge for the time because they think that their time doesn't matter because 90% of people or 99% of people start where? At home.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, well, we're, at the dinner table, or we're, again, watching TV, or I'm down in the basement at my office doing work anyway. You don't think that your time's valuable, but then you understand that it's midnight every night after you just worked a 9-hour shift at work. You come home and you're working until midnight and you're barely seeing your kids because you're just trying to get these jobs done. Then you realize, like, yeah, my time does matter, and it does count towards something.
Well,
So
I also think that people, when they're first starting, they tend to worry that they're going to overprice themselves.
right,
And one of the big things that Steve taught me when I was young in my career was to always shop your competitors, and there's nothing wrong with that
Nothing wrong with it
at all. You actually have a funny story about when some guy came in to see you last
week.
week.
I'm on the podcast. You stole it from me, man.
Yeah, but he came in.
Came into the store and had his, I think it was Embroid Me or something like that was the logo on his shirt, and he's asking all the pricing and everything. And
I remember this one. Yeah.
I just reach over and hand him the list and like, buddy, just ask
me.
next time, but cover up. Change your shirt before you come in here,
tape
buddy.
or something.
Yeah. And we became pretty decent friends and traded business back and forth and everything.
Yeah.
I want to head back kind of to talking about underpricing yourself and undervaluing.
Yeah.
And you had asked earlier about moving into a brick and mortar.
Yeah, when did you guys decide that? Before you?
That's kind of when we got to the point where it was so much business going through the house that maybe a third to almost half of our house was being utilized for business.
Yeah,
You're like, and I got people coming up to the door at all sorts of different times, and you don't get your personal time anymore.
Right.
Because at shop you lock the door at 5 o'clock, go home, can have
Leave
a beer
work
and
at work,
leave,
right?
leave me alone, right?
Right.
But when it's out of your house, people show up at 8:30 at night. Oh, hey, I was driving by.
Right.
But that leap going into a shop, you can really hurt yourself if you undervalue your product. So if I'm selling these shirts at $5 a piece because I've figured out, my shirt cost me $1, $1.50, materials, $2, and I'm thinking, I'm making a great profit. When you move into that brick and mortar, you've got so much more overhead, utilities, and everything else. I used to tell people when we taught classes that when you're looking at how much you price something, take the footprint of your house. If I'm using, I got a, 1,000 square foot house, I'm using 250 square feet of it for business. We'll take all of your bills, and 1/4 of your bills is your overhead for that business. Now factor that into what you're charging for your product, and you're going to realize, hey, it's a lot more expensive. I'm giving away my house, my electricity, my internet, my telephone. I'm giving all that away free when I'm working out of my house. And it's fine if that's what you want to do. But if you're looking to expand your business and someday down the road get into a brick and mortar and be competitive, you're going to have to do that. And shopping the competition is a good way to know, am I competitive enough?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, we hinted on a little bit, but when you're talking about getting creative with the different technologies and print and cut, sub it out. Get transfers.
And that's where having a partner like that guy from Embroid Me. Sometimes I would have a job that I just didn't have the capacity for.
Yeah.
So I would contact him and say, hey, can you run this job for me? And he would have a set price list for me, and I would have a set price list for him. He didn't have a print and cut system. So I would do banners sometimes for him or signs or something like that. And having that relationship and we were far enough away where we weren't really crossing
Right,
over.
right.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
It helped us out quite a bit.
So as you develop more into the business, do you still have the business?
No,
today?
we closed down the business.
Okay.
We sold off the equipment, and we did it a little differently than I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
When we started out and actually got into the shop, we were the only business in a pretty good range, maybe like 20 miles or so.
Yeah.
That did screen printing, embroidery, laser engraving, vinyl cuts. We had just about everything.
Yeah.
Even rhinestones. Shout out to Matt. He helped hook me up back in the day. So it was really a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
We even did vehicle wraps. So we put that business model into place because we were looking to, I don't want you to go to 6 different places to be able to
Right.
get all the things you need for your business.
Right.
Come to me. Yeah, some of it I'm going to sub out like business cards or whatever, but I get your logo once and I can show you the 50 different things that I can put it on.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the end of, we were about 10 years, I think, when we decided to close down the business. When we got to that point, there was probably 5 shops within 15 minutes of us.
Yeah.
That were doing the
Everything's
exact
popping up.
same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And we could go shop the competition like we were talking about earlier, and they were all within 5-10 cents of us. It almost felt like when we changed our prices, within a month I could go over to their place and see, they adjusted their prices to match mine, but minus 5
The
cents a
old
shirt.
gas station model, You see
Yeah,
the
I mean,
gas
really,
station across
so-
the street,
so-
1 cent and 1 cent.
Yeah, but to your point, if I'm, if I live on the other side of the road and I can make an easier turn left to get out of there, I'm going to go to that
100%.
one. So it's
Yeah.
like, what's convenient for you at that point?
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys hit the market really at a good time.
It was a good time, and my wife did an amazing job of building up that business, getting a reputation in the community.
Hi, Jen.
Shout out, Jen. Just absolutely amazing business that she built up there.
Yeah.
And when it got to that point, we were looking at it going, okay, we haven't taken that leap. And you've been around to enough businesses. The leap I'm talking about is once you get to a certain level of business, you're kind of at a saturation with the equipment you have and the personnel and everything. And it's almost like you need that one really big job.
Yeah.
Like that $200,000 job or something, like the whale
make
that
or
walks in
break,
the door.
yeah.
And that will put you to the next level.
Right.
And there were so many shops as a technician that I would go into that they're, hey, we're $10 million a year. And I'd ask them, how did you get to that point?
Yeah.
And it was always, we landed the Coors Light campaign
Yeah.
for the East Coast, and it was just because this one guy picked up on us, and that was our make point.
Right.
And we weren't quite getting there. Competition was just crazy saturated in the
Right.
area, and I had an opportunity to move back to Michigan to take another job because I'd retired from the Navy at that point.
Yeah.
So we assessed it and said, this is a good time to transition.
Yeah.
And my wife, again, did an amazing thing when shutting down the shop. Most shop owners will know your most valuable asset in there is your customer list.
Right.
Your employees,
Yeah, of
and then
course.
your customer list. She didn't sell it off. We
Really?
had a bunch of people approach us, and she said, no, I will recommend to my customers who we think is the appropriate person to go to.
Yeah.
And we'll share the files, but we're not going to sell it off.
Sure.
That's good.
So we really tried to take care of the customers even at the end there.
That's awesome. Where did you take to the next step? So you now went from a military career to your own business to then now you're starting in a new career. What was your job title there?
So, we had the shop. A few years into it, while we were still in the house, I went to one of the trade shows, Atlantic City. I was walking the floor with my wife and trying to figure out what's the next big thing for us within the shop. And we looked at print and cut systems. And I just kept coming around to that same spot on the shop floor and talking to the company that had it at the time. I convinced my wife, hey, this is a big leap. This is a big chunk of change. Because back then, I think they were like $14,000 for a small machine, a 30-inch machine. And she believed in me. She said, if you can make this work and you can get this thing paid off in a short period of time, you really think it's going to help us, we'll do it.
Yeah.
We ended up being the second customer from that company to ever purchase one of those machines.
Oh, wow.
It was an old Roland SP 300V, the first V unit that they had on the market, where they changed the RIP software to VersaWorks. And being the nuke engineer, a technical kind of guy, got it home, got it installed, and within a week I called back to the company and said, hey, listen, I figured out a few things.
Yeah.
You can do this, that, and the other thing. And a few days after that, the owner of the company called me back and said, hey, I'd like to talk to you more.
That's awesome.
So we built up this relationship to where I was going to trade shows with them, and kind of representing on the floor, helping them out with, different customers asking for that experience. And I could give them a true slice of what it's like to have something like that in your shop. And that developed into making a training program.
Yeah.
We had a VersaCam boot camp that I built up simply because a guy on the trade show floor said, hey, I'm not that far from you guys. I'm about an hour and a half. I'd love to come to your shop and see how you guys do this.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, he's not competition.
Sure.
Bring it on. And that's where the Colonel came in.
Yep.
Shout out to
Hey,
Irv.
Yeah.
When are you going to have him on the show, man?
I've yet to reach out to him. He is on my list, and he is not being neglected by any means.
You need to bump him up, man.
I know.
That's a unique perspective right there. He'll
100%.
give it to you.
He's got great stuff.
So we had this first class there, and it just kind of built from there. And then I became a technician part-time with them and everything. So when I retired from the Navy, I started working for that company as a technician. And through that, another opportunity opened up, and that's how I was able to transition back out to Michigan as a head of a tech support group.
Nice. So you're basically, in essence, one of the first people to have that. I wouldn't say the first, but one of the first originators of like having that true customer experience first.
For the print and cut?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that because the print cut systems were out there.
Yeah.
They were just, I think, really hitting into the apparel industry.
Yeah.
Because the print and cut systems were out there for quite a while, or print and cut separate, for the sign industry.
Got it.
And people were starting to discover, hey, we can make these vinyls that are receptive to the solvent inks and put that onto apparel.
Yeah.
And that's where it really started opening up for the apparel industry.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there, you came to a point where you were reaching out and talking to an owner of a certain company, and then you had an opportunity to move back to Michigan, and you started up the tech team.
The tech team, the Tech Ninjas.
The Tech Ninjas.
Was that the actual team name?
It was our nickname.
Okay.
To the
like
point
that.
where we had it up on the wall and everything. I still have that sign.
Yeah.
I still got it.
Yeah.
It's building an Esprit decor. So I was always looking for people that you don't have to know how to operate or be a technician on this machine, but you have to have that ability to learn.
Yeah.
And that thirst for knowledge. And that's where I met Chad. We were at a trade show, and I got to know him a little bit, and I said, this guy's got that thirst for knowledge. He doesn't know squat about printers and cutters.
No idea.
Or being a technician. I mean, he was
idea.
horrible at that in the beginning, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But you bring somebody like that in, and you throw their feet in the fire a little bit, and you let them learn that, hey, there's a lifeline here for you. And you just kind of keep pumping all the information at them, and if they're responsive to it, they will excel at it.
Yeah.
And I kept looking for individuals like that. So Chad was one of them. We had in the early days, we had three of us and myself.
It was myself, Joe, and it was just us. So three of us.
And then we picked up John shortly after that.
John was about 16 months to a year after.
And at one point, a couple years down from that, we were talking with Roland, which was the main machine that we were kind of working on at that point, and showed them our call volume for a year and everything. And they made the comment, you guys are making more tech support calls than we do.
With half the people.
Yeah. We were doing.
Look at his face.
I'm proud of that.
He's like a
I
little
think
kid.
we were 9,500 calls in one year, and on those BN20 units, a call could easily be 4 hours.
Yeah.
Really?
Easily, because you're doing an installation remotely and helping the person out and everything. And then a lot of times we would find with those customers that they hadn't even touched a graphic software. So, okay, we're going to do a graphic software boot camp. And we never stopped helping them.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I have some of those people, call me up and, hey, I need some help. Trying to figure this out. I had one just the other day, and it was a simple thing of not covering up the optical sensor on the back of a cutter in a bright room, and reflection off of black vinyl kept fooling the cutter that it was open. Yeah. But they get that lifeline, and we had, I said it before, in Esprit Decor. I mean, we worked super hard.
Yeah.
We were traveling all the time. We were getting out there and taking the hard jobs and everything, but we also had a really good time with it. It was. You don't mess with us. We've got our group. We're going to get the job done, and we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it was a great experience.
So I do have a question, though. So obviously, you took this just poor little kid and brought him in under your wing.
He was pretty sad.
Like there's a stray cat.
There's got to be at least one story of like something just dumb that Chad has done.
Dumb.
Not intelligent. We'll call it that.
I got to be careful because there's a lot of stories I can tell about this guy that could get him in a lot of trouble.
Come on.
There's one that is just absolutely fun.
Okay.
So this guy had actually.
I like the way you put that. Absolutely fun.
This is a fun story, and I think he'll laugh at the end of it too. We had built up the tech support team to the point where I chatted. I think at the time you were the manager of it. You were team lead for me, and we brought in a new guy, Matt Jokinen.
Yep.
Shout out, Matt.
Yep.
And it got kind of competitive sometimes when you were traveling to a cool place.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. You know where this is going.
Yeah, I do.
Oh gosh.
So Chad, being the team lead, said, "Well, we've got this call to a cool place out in the middle of Montana."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't even remember the town that it was in.
Great Falls, Montana.
And they had this place out there, some bar that had a lady named Piano Pat.
Piano Pat.
Sip and dip.
The Sip and Dip.
Piano Pat. You showed me the video.
Yeah.
Of her.
Oh,
Piano
yeah.
Pat.
And at this bar, they
Yeah.
had a wall that went to, I guess, an aquarium that they had mermaids. Women dressed up as mermaids swimming around. I think it was Maxim said it was like the top 10 bar.
Yeah, actually, it was at that point. It was. I think it was GQ named it the number one bar in America for that year.
Really?
So this guy says, you know what, I'm the team lead, and Matt needs to get his qualification one, so I'm gonna go on a ride along with him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take one for the team, and I'm gonna go out to the middle of Montana.
Yeah, God forbid anybody else want to be able to do that.
Yeah. He just took one for the team. Yeah, really.
I did.
On the way out, this is fabulous. How this whole thing started. They hit a deer in the rental car.
Oh my god, dude.
Well,
Doesn't call me right away. It was 30 minutes later or something like that. He calls me up and he goes, "Hey, by the way, we're on our way. Everything's going great, and we hit a deer." And I'm like,
so-
"Did you
What had
call the
happened?
cops? Did you file a report? There's damage."
Don't tell me
No,
you
man,
kept
we left
going."
the deer on the side of the road.
what had happened was we were driving. We were driving, and we're thinking like Montana, like it's this, it's a scenic, crazy place. And we were driving with Matt, and Matt was in the passenger seat, and I was driving, and we're looking around. And I'm like, this place is kind of lame. It's all just plateaus, just flat.
Yeah.
and
Nothing out here.
Yeah, nothing really out here. And then all of a sudden, we're about the install from Great Falls was about 2.5 hours from where we were staying.
Yeah.
And we're probably about 45 minutes in, and then all of a sudden, just beauty just opens up.
Yeah.
It's like this canyon and all this stuff, and we're like, oh, there's some stuff that's kind of cool. And as soon as my eyes revert back to the road, probably about 6 deer just jumping in front of me, and I kind of did a zigzag, and I took Bambi out just right on the side, and it wasn't good. Yeah. I'm not gonna put any caveats for any animal lovers. It was bad, and I didn't really know what to do. I'd never hit a deer before, which is strange coming from Michigan, but I've never hit an animal. So I was like, well, we're gonna be late.
There is a weird time where if that happens, especially being in Michigan, because it's really common around where I'm at too. Is you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
If it's your first time, you really don't know what to do.
So I'm like, in my head, we're going to be late to this install. It's already 2 hours out.
I'll just leave it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't think it was going to be able to go anywhere. So, we kept going. And about 10, 15 minutes later, I'm like, hey, maybe I should just call Steve and let him know what happened.
Or maybe the insurance company.
I thought about that
it's
too.
a rental car. We got the optional insurance. It's all good.
It's got the $6 insurance.
Thought about that too.
It gets better though.
Oh,
so we get that resolved and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I deal with all that craziness. He gets out there, does a great install. I think Matt qualified on that install. And then they go to the Sip and Dip, hoping to see the mermaids. What they failed to check and calculate on was the particular night they went there was ladies' night.
There's all mermen?
All mermen.
It's a bunch of mermen.
I got to find that picture. I looked and I couldn't find it. They had a picture taken with the merman in the background.
That's awesome.
This guy's wearing a cardigan at the time. And I used to love to point out to him that he looks almost like Johan in this picture. We got to find this picture and get it to him. But the look on his face is utter defeat.
Well, the guy's just creeping over my shoulder with a trident, like just cheesing at me. I had no idea at the time.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was That was fun. I'll give you that. It was fun. Now that
Dude,
the
that's
deer
such
thing
a
was
great
dumb.
story.
That was pretty dumb.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was atypical. I mean, we had another guy on the team, Joe, that every time he went on an install, he'd come back and
He's got a bunch of dumb ones.
You guys won't believe what happened to me.
That's an armadillo.
I love that. I
Oh,
love
the
that.
armadillo was great. You know, he's down by the border on another one.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to see the border to Mexico. So the guy he's with is like, yeah, let's go. And they go down there, and some donkey comes walking up, sticks its head in the window, and he's like, how does this happen to a person?
Well, when you're on the road for
You're
at that
lucky,
point, we were probably close to 300 days or 200 days.
Yeah.
Out of the year. So thank you, Brittany and Caitlin, for staying with us, and Jen.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning it was rough. Actually, our first 3 weeks in, we were at a trade show. We had to go to Toronto.
Yeah.
It's actually where I met you on. But we were, yeah, you guys are going to run this printer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll figure it out while we're there.
Don't
and-
know anything about it.
No,
Well,
and
that
we-
was
we
the
did.
Blizzard one.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we
yeah,
leave
yeah,
to go
yeah.
to this trade
I was
show.
so mad at that
We
cop.
Yeah.
get across the border into Canada,
Stupid
and it
Mountie.
just turns white out.
Yeah.
Stupid
What is
Mountie.
that, the 401?
Yeah. Oh, never again will I go that route.
You know,
Is
those huge-
this is the Mountie story?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah,
we
man,
get
I
out,
know,
it's
yeah.
Blizzard. You can't see the front of the car. We go off
Yeah.
on an exit, and I thought Canadians were nice.
Yeah,
We
me
get
too.
off, there's the Mountie
for,
there, we
for
roll
our
down the
Canadian
window.
listeners, I'm sure they're nice, but that Mountie, I do not
Just
like.
the
it
one
at all.
particular Mountie.
Roll down the window, and we're like, hey, we're trying to get here and everything. You know, where do we go? And he looks at us and goes, go home.
Yeah,
Oh,
go home,
No, man.
turn around.
We can't quite do that.
I got to go that way, not
Well,
that way.
we couldn't quite go anywhere, so telling me to go home or turn around was not going to help the situation. I got really mad at that.
we
stupid
did
Mountie.
end up
See,
in a
getting
diner
fired
though.
I'm still getting fired up.
You
Yeah.
remember that poutine?
Yeah, they had some
that was
good
the best
poutine.
poutine I've ever had. Some
Yeah.
side of the road diner in the
I
middle
never
of
knew.
nowhere.
I never knew what poutine was until I went to Canada for the first time.
How is it that America doesn't have poutine everywhere?
We are like a melting pot of every delicacy or every type of dish that comes from any country.
That's
but we-
not healthy at all, and we don't have poutine.
Just go
But
to
we
a
don't
ball
have
game and
poutine.
look at the foods they create there. There's no way.
And there's
that's
probably
healthy.
someone. If you're in a state that has poutine, and
Send us
they
some.
do it really
Send
good,
us some in the
just
mail.
send me some frozen poutine. No, let us know, and I will make a special trip just to try it because that was it was interesting. Because listen, anybody that's in Canada that listens to our show or watches our show, I'm not saying anything bad about poutine. It's not for me.
Oh,
I didn't
really?
think it was good. No.
Really?
Oh, I
think
love poutine.
I think it depends where you go too, because we had at the former employer that we were talking about, we had a Canadian office, and there was a place up there. It was a poutine, but it was a chain.
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
a fast
really?
food place, and it was horrible.
That was not good.
Really?
But if you got to find like a good spot to get it,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
it's a diner or something like that. That I've had and it's good. But I agree with you. I've been to certain places where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we've got poutine, and you can get it with. I think Joe Burke got it with like nacho cheese sauce and like all these crazy like.
It did get a little out of control there.
Yeah,
On some of that.
yeah.
Just give me the fries, some good gravy,
Yeah.
cheese, cheddar chease curds.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Maybe
So-
I need to try again.
Yeah, just don't get
what it
too
is.
adventurous with it. I'll say that.
All
for
right,
sure.
I'll
But-
take that. So, all right, now let's fast forward that we got on a huge tangent here. Let's talk about where you're at now. So you're at Trevco now, correct?
Trevco.
So
yeah.
what do you do for Trevco?
I'm the senior manager for research and development there.
Okay.
Which means I get to play with a lot of toys.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
So taking all the technical background and putting that into research and development, also the engineering background, process
Yeah.
engineering, all that, and being able to apply it in one place where they say, hey, we need to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
Help us out, figure it out. What equipment do we need? How do we facilitate that?
Yeah.
How do we put it all together? And it's an amazing job. I absolutely
That's
love what
awesome.
I do. I get to play around with it. I've got a great tech team there. These guys work super hard. We've got all sorts of crazy equipment. I've learned DTGs like I never thought I would.
Yeah.
They use cornets there, and I was used to badmouth cornets, and some days we still do. But but they work. And we pump
Yeah.
out a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
But Trevco is a company that leverages licensing. So they
Okay.
have over 800 licenses to different entities like WB, Nickelodeon, I think SpongeBob. We got
Netflix,
DC, some Netflix stuff, and it is just huge in licensing. So if
Yeah.
we can take one license and apply it to 1,000 products,
Right.
now we've got all of that we can sell.
Yeah.
So that's really the key for that company, and being able to say, okay, one more piece of equipment that we can get. Now we can print on all these other items,
Right.
put it onto the same Amazon listings because they're a direct-to-consumer company via Amazon. So it's just a fantastic job, and I'm given free reign to do all the development that I can.
Yeah. Now, did you have to take a lot of the relationships that you had in your previous job? Like, did those two careers kind of match up? Are you utilizing any of those folks now?
Not necessarily. You're talking about like industry experts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I still have a distinct core group that I definitely rely on from time to time. Call up and, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. I actually called you the other day, trying to remember a piece of equipment and where we had kind of sourced that from. So I'll definitely leverage that. And a lot of it also is trying to keep up on the technology.
Yeah.
And without trade shows, it's made it really difficult because a couple times I've been like, oh, I remember this one piece of equipment. I saw it at SGIA, which is Print United now. Who was that person?
I could only see it.
Yeah.
Or I have this process I'm trying to figure out. If I could get on that floor and go around, I'll find something that does something different, but I'll be able to see that I can leverage that piece of equipment.
It was so much easier, especially being at a show. And like, for example, for us, even looking at maybe changing up our print systems or production set, whatever, being at a show, just being able to network with people and having, Mamaki there and Roland there and all of these different players, it's so much easier. And so how did Trevco kind of, work around, obviously, this pandemic that's going on and stuff like that?
So just like everybody else, we kind of closed down a little bit. You're in that fear of like, we're an Amazon retailer. So
Amazon was at a point where they were
struggling a bit too. Especially with the fulfillment side of it. But you look at that, and everybody kind of went tight on the pocketbooks right away. I don't know how you guys were, but for me, I did get furloughed for a little bit because R&D isn't as really crucial in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
And the company's trying to make sure that we can make it through this thing and bring everybody back, which they did. They did an amazing job of it. But what Trevor and the team there did is they said, wait a minute, we've got all this licensing. Let's leverage that over to something that's going to help people. And I think it was within 4 days. From concept to execution, they created massclub.com.
Oh, really?
And
that's awesome.
Took all the licensing that we possibly could and applied to mass. I mean, I was wearing this guy when I came in, Underdog.
That's awesome.
And actually, I brought you guys gifts.
Oh.
And I'm a little disappointed. I thought, you can't see just Rob.
Right.
And
sometimes he pops in and out.
I was like, I got something specifically for each person.
Oh, well, just Rob doesn't really get any credit, so he'll take a gift.
Just for him,
Perfect.
So for you, I got Woody Woodpecker.
Nice, I like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
For just
That's
Rob,
awesome.
I got him his own Underdog because I think he's underappreciated.
He is underappreciated.
He's the underdog here.
Undervalued.
So I got him his own one, and because of all the travel, where's Waldo for Chad?
I like
perfect.
I
like
here.
it, man.
So there you go, buddy.
That's awesome.
This is cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Kind of took off from what Russ did, bringing in some gifts and talking about some stuff. And
Right.
Yeah.
This is a fun one too. I was going to give out to if there was an extra person there.
I
Turn
like
yourself into Shrek.
That fits probably more my face.
that's all you right there.
Look at this. This probably is actually the right size and everything.
Oh, look at that Shrek smile, man.
You like that? Look at that, Chad.
Oh yeah, it's
You
perfect. You look just like him.
That's all. Well, now I put my mouth on it, so I can't give it to anybody.
Well, so actually, before you came over here, I told Patrick, I'm like, Steve's gonna bring us something. I know he's gonna, and I'm like, shoot, I'm underprepared. I don't have anything, and I looked over on my desk, and I'm like, that's it. That is the perfect gift for Steve. And I would
I'm
like
kind of
to
afraid.
re-gift you
Re-gift.
a swatch book that
Oh,
you had made 10 years ago from the Roland Versacam class.
Oh God, this thing
So
took
this
me
is-
so long
so
to
this
put
is one of
together.
your creations, then, huh?
No, dude,
well-
those things that takes probably what, 8 hours?
This was a 6-pack job.
Yeah, that's right.
So I used to have certain jobs and certain projects and that we would share with customers, and I'd always say it's a 6-pack or a 12-pack job because you're going to drink that beer while you're doing it. It takes that amount of time. So for this one, you had to print out this roll of vinyl material, and it's got cut lines on it, and then you got to cut them into all the individual swatches, and then you got to punch a hole through it, and you put the spacer in there and everything. But honestly, this is one of the most useful tools a shop can have.
100%.
Yeah.
And I saw some people who did them that they put them in. They would cut it into a 8.5 by 11 sheet and then stick it into one of those
like
dividers.
a dividing folder.
So it's
Yeah.
protected. But a customer comes in and you're trying to talk to him about color,
Yeah.
and we're both saying red, but I'm thinking fire truck red, you're thinking stop sign red, and you're thinking brick red.
Yeah.
Being able to pull it out and go, no, that's
Right.
the red I want,
or
and
put
you
it
know
against a
that's-
shirt or something.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's coming out of the printer. It's huge.
Yeah.
This is
That's
a
awesome.
huge tool.
Yeah.
I'll leave it with you guys.
Well, thanks. I just figured, if anything, I can make it funny and re-gift you something.
That's
but
awesome.
I'll gladly take it back.
All right, you want
I'll
to
use it.
hop into some segments here?
Yeah. So, real quick, I did want to mention, I've known of Trevco for I think a little over a year now, and I think the business plan is just. It's brilliant, just for the licensing aspect.
Yeah.
It's something I've never really thought about before, and to incorporate with what we do in the industry and tie that in, I think is really, really smart. So shout out to Trevor and the team over there.
We got some cool stuff coming down the line too. I can't, there's NDAs with any time you're working with a licensor.
You
but-
can't give up any cool information. How far does a submarine go into the water? How about this?
Actually, you could technically disclaim, not on a podcast.
Yeah.
Eh.
We'll keep
I
it safe.
generally don't actually. That's,
You might
that's one
not
of
be
those things.
around for the next show if he tells you. It might just be a fill-in.
We might have to get rid of you.
We might have to get rid of you.
No,
They've
so
got some really cool licensing stuff coming out on Mass Club, I think, within the next month, by the end of October.
Cool.
Big stuff.
Cool.
all right. So yeah, let's jump into some segments. I don't think we've done them in the past maybe 2 episodes. So
Yeah.
we thought we'd bring them
You
back.
did it with Dave.
Did we? Yeah.
Maybe we just we did Mallory and Peyton, so
That's why I'm thinking
we treated it as 2
the
episodes.
Split.
Yeah.
So, Patrick asked me this beforehand, so I thought I would ask you: Roland versus Mamaki.
That's a hard one, man. Because you know I'm working in a Mamaki shop now.
I know.
And I've been a diehard Roland guy since day
know.
one. They both have their pluses and minuses.
Sure.
The Roland for me, it's that comfort zone.
Yeah.
I know I can take those things apart, put them back together. I know all the software and everything. I love the whole print and cut as one unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I used to fight this tooth and nail that it really isn't faster to do print and a separate cut.
Right.
It is technically faster, but I used to show people a video
The
that
load
somebody,
time.
yeah, it's the load time, the operator moving back and
Registration.
forth, and with a print and cut integrated system, the guy's walking over, hitting print, and going and doing something else.
Sure.
So I love the Mamakis we're working with right now, but I'd still go back to Roland. That's kind of my roots. And
Well, it's what you're comfortable on. I learned on a Mamaki. That Mamaki upstairs, that was the first machine I did before I ever got into the Roland.
Well, and the reason I asked that is because we were diehard Roland. I mean,
Yeah.
live and breathe.
Well, it's what you-
Roland,
it's what you know,
and
man,
it's
yeah.
what we know. And I think Mamaki has stepped up quite a bit recently with their technology and the things that they're able to do. And I still, and Daniel, even if you're listening, anybody, I'm still upset that we had Japanese engineers come in. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And we gave some great feedback.
We
on
went in depth on it, yeah.
Potential product, and it just never came to fruition. Which, of course, isn't Daniel or anybody's
no,
fault.
it's not
but-
his fault, but it's still frustrating when they come out and see the real end user and people who are doing tech on it all day long,
Yeah.
and you say, hey, this is something that would make our lives 10 times
Yeah.
easier.
Customers too.
But I see it on the Mamaki side too, because there's working in those machines a little bit more and getting your hands on them. You're sitting there going, why in the world did they put that there?
Yes, and I will say this too. I would have to lean towards Roland as well, but Mamaki, the one thing that took me a little bit was just the language difference. Really, is I mean, the operation of them is pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when you have one device that's print and cut as well that you're comparing it to. But the language took me a bit of time to get used to.
Meaning what certain things are called on the machine.
Yeah, the actual
and
interface of
software.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially on the menu.
Yeah.
On a
100%.
Roland, I can be behind it and function
Exactly.
down, enter. It's a sheet cut.
Yeah.
I don't even have to look at it. And on
Yeah.
a Mamaki, I'm like, okay, where's that? Oh, I got to go into local, and then I got to do
Adjust.
this and this.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a comfort zone and also learning the language. But the same could be said for Corel versus Adobe
AI,
Illustrator.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a absolute diehard, defend it to the death Corel guy. Corel.
Corral.
I listen to the show.
The old Corral.
Carl. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got myself into a position at one point where my computer got replaced, and I said, don't put that on there because I have to learn both.
Yeah.
And now I go to Illustrator all the time.
Really.
By the way, at 4 minutes and 14 seconds, I want to just clip that Carl, and put it on. Just a preview clip.
I can do that, yeah.
Carl. But yeah, you switched to Adobe. You're Adobe, but you have the Corel interface, correct?
No, I have Corel, but
Corel
I have
of
my
the-
workspace is set up as an Adobe workspace.
So you did the opposite.
In the CD
I'm
software. I'll just call it CD software. 'cause I can't
The
say
CD.
it. Yeah.
I'm still a Corel guy.
Yeah.
Till I die. It's ease of use to me and user friendly. I think.
There's basically the same functions between the two of them. It's just
Depends
how
what you're doing.
how you get to it.
Yep.
And there are sometimes Illustrator, I'm like, well, I can do that 10 times faster there.
Mm-hmm.
And then other things, I get so frustrated in there, and I want to go back to Corel
Yeah.
to do it faster there because I can.
Yeah.
But that's where I think if you have the opportunity, learning both, because you've seen it as a technician, we would get on somebody's computer and they're like, well, all I have is Illustrator. Well, as a technician, all I knew at that time was Corel, so
Yeah.
I can't help you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Either that or you learn real quick. That's how you
Yeah.
learn.
Yep. Into
we
the
had
fire.
we had to know both, So that's actually a lot of my knowledge. Not to say Steve wasn't a part of it. Steve was a great part of it, but a lot of it came from customers and learning from them and from their shops and from their operation and everything else.
They will have the most amazing innovations. You'll be in a shop and you're like, how did you do that again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you show me that? Because that's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've
for
learned
sure.
I've learned a ton just from going into open houses and talking to people. And then we start getting into software, and right away, coming into the industry, I was a big proponent of design space from Cricut. So that's all I knew. And then that's from the first time I ever got Corel. I've said it many a times here on the podcast, but first time was here. So it was like when I finally went to open houses, and especially when I did my first couple open houses, it was nice because I could kind of get some inside knowledge from people that knew the system.
Sure.
So that's how I learned really quick. But all right, so I want to hop into what's your favorite print and cut job that you've ever done?
Favorite print and cut job? Probably not a cut job, but when we had the shop, I did some wraps, vehicle wraps and installations. And I think it was, I want to say like a 26-foot trailer
Oh, really?
that we got to wrap. And I ended up doing it in the parking lot
Yeah.
of our building. And it was just a super challenging job getting everything lined up. But when you get done and you step back and you look at it, that one was a cool
That's the
one.
gratification.
And then another wrap jobs are always fun because you get to the end of it and you're like, this is a cool product.
Yeah.
For a print cut job though, it wasn't any particular job. It was always when the customer came in,
Yeah.
it was their design. We worked through, we helped them get it to where it needed to be and everything. And you see them open it up and they pull it up and they got that huge smile like,
They're like, this
this is it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I wanted and was hoping for.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most rewarding thing that we had going on in the shop.
That's awesome. Actually, something you can talk about, because I know we went a little bit on this via email, but we were talking about the steps of laying out a wrap. I kind of want to change it a little bit. I want to know, because I like we talked about beforehand, I wrap pretty much everything, but I wrap small, intricate stuff. So I wrap like cell phones and laptops and stuff like that, as opposed to cars where you have a little bit more surface area, but also a lot more room for error because there's a lot more issues. Talk about the steps that are involved with just, laying out a car, but I also want to know, in your opinion, because you've done both, is it harder to, aside from making sure your alignment and everything's good, is it harder to wrap a trailer, to wrap flat surface or curved surface?
Flat surface is way easier.
Yeah.
Oh, so much easier.
Try a rear or a side mirror on a vehicle.
Side
See,
view
but
mirror.
like that's the thing, is that's what one of the first things, I have one at my house that's what I practice with.
But
when I
did,
first
did you
got
do it
into
with a printed design that you couldn't distort?
No, see,
That's
no.
way
That's where the
different.
challenge
Okay.
comes in.
Got
So
it.
Yeah,
we
color only. You're just
Yeah.
non-print.
You're heating it
Yeah.
up, doing a little stretch, making sure you don't overstretch it. It's when you get into dimensional items that have curve to it
Yeah.
or irregular surfaces,
Yeah.
which you can even with like a laptop. We were looking at your
Yeah.
laptop earlier, but you trim around the top of that, and it's not super challenging. You might have the Dell logo in the middle or something
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
You heat it up a little
If
bit.
this
and
guy's got to
squeeze
be
it in.
to scale,
Yeah.
without distortion.
and in the right
Yeah.
placement.
Yeah.
So that was always a challenge. And I taught a wrap class a couple times. I assisted teaching it. We brought in somebody who's a professional that did wraps all the time and also taught some of the classes. And we combined it with some of our VersaCam classes that I was teaching at the time. And it's just a really cool experience. We had a Toyota RAV4
Okay.
that we wrapped in the class. I even did a time-lapse video of it and everything. And the hardest part is either the bumpers
Yeah.
or that vehicle at the time had the rear tire cover on the back of it. And we put a challenge out to the people in the class, said, wrap that without distorting the logo.
Oh, wow.
And it's curved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's flat in the center, but then it curves out and
Yeah.
it goes quite a ways down. So you have to keep that going. But as you're doing that curve at the end, you're stretching the material a little
Right.
bit, and you don't want it to get distorted. So in measuring and laying out, as we were talking about layouts, especially on vehicles, it's not a one-dimensional
Yeah.
surface. You think of a car hood,
Yeah.
and it might have a dip in the center of it.
Right.
But that did mean something when you have a printed design
Exactly.
on it.
So what I used to do is take like blue painter's tape, run it across there, mark where stuff was, and then I would lay it out on the table. And I know, hey, my dip is here and here. It's not just 4 feet across. It's
Yeah.
actually 4 feet and 6 inches or whatever because of
Gotcha.
the contours and stuff.
So then you're adjusting your artwork manually before you're printing it out.
Exactly.
So in essence, a lot of times your artwork would actually come off the printer, basically distorted in a way to where when you lay it out.
I wouldn't distort the artwork.
Okay.
The layout, the template of it would be
Yeah.
a little different. So
Yeah.
you're looking at it. If I'm looking down at the top of the hood, it's 4 feet across. It's actually 4 feet 6 inches because you have the divots
Yeah.
and stuff like that. You have to accommodate for that. But you'll want to take your design and make sure that in those crucial areas, say like across the gas tank cover,
Yeah.
you're not putting a very specific design element there that when you open that up or something happens to that, you lose it all.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the funny stuff on the internet, you
Yeah.
know, a van that they open up the door and now it's got a totally different message.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
doing
We've seen
vehicle.
some bad raps too.
Oh, we had that in the class. Remember those
Oh,
pictures? We had some bad raps that we would show, and
Really?
our color mismatches and this and that.
Oh, God.
It's challenging, but that is a super rewarding one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Flat surfaces are super easy though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
wipe those on quick.
Well, my only experiences when we did this, Chad took me through and taught me basically how to put the wall.
Well, this
graphic
is-
up.
You
This
didn't
is a little
alternate the
different.
panels, did you, bud?
I did actually. This one's a little different, just because it's wall graphic.
Yeah,
So we're not
yeah.
really using heat guns and
Right. You're not
having to
stretching
stretch
and
it.
distorting
And
color.
this one
Yeah.
was a little bit a lot
it's a
easier.
bit more
but
stable.
This is not
Yeah.
easy by any means. Especially, I remember we did the one at a
At the-
former place that we used to work with.
The little entrance.
And one of my guys, I love you, John. He didn't realize what profile he printed three of the 4 panels on. So we had to try and color match because one of them was off. We had to try and color match and find out which profile was used to print the other 3 that were already hanging.
Wow.
And we ended up after a day of just doing, literally just test print. It would come off a little bit. Nope, that's not it. Come off 8 hours later. Nope, we're ripping the whole wall down and we're just redoing
Wow,
it. So,
man.
and especially if you have like staggered stuff and it's got to match up. Yeah, that's a rewarding one too.
But even on the small things, like a laptop, if you want to get really cool with it and making sure the edges go over and getting it on there, that can still be challenging. And we didn't we do that? Was it a lacrosse helmet or a goalie helmet?
Yeah, we did a goalie helmet without the cage, and then we also did the DPF. I thought that's what you were gonna.
Oh, the DPF 8000?
With the dumbest thing I've ever done. First class I taught myself and Joe,
Yeah.
one of my good friends and Steve's. We put up DPF 8000, which is a really, really highly aggressive tack vinyl, and it's I believe it's cast. Or is it calendar? I think it is.
No,
cast.
I think it's
It's
calendar,
cast.
but it's an ultra calendar, so it's more stable.
Yeah. So you ever go to the Red Wings Stadium? I don't even Little Caesars. I don't even sports anymore. I don't even know where you go.
Yeah.
Sports or
house.
Comerica Park. Or, yeah, my couch.
my couch, your TV.
Yeah. So, anyways, if you go to those stadiums, a lot of times you'll see like on the stadium walls, it looks like they're painted
Yeah.
photos, but
Yeah.
it's actually printed on something similar to like a DPF. It's really, really high tack.
Yeah.
And we applied it for the class. It was Marilyn Monroe, and we had it on a brick wall, and it came out beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
When we applied it. When we went to take it down, we didn't use the heat gun, and we tore the paint off with it. So,
And it was freshly painted walls, too. Mm-hmm. And to the last day we were there was still that big chunk missing from the wall.
well, what I had wanted to do was, since we started to get into color towards the end of it, was let's use the spectrophotometer, get the exact color of the paint, print it, and then put a Band-Aid on.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So that was a no-go. But yeah, I think wraps. And then real quick before we wrap up to the last thing, what about like I know you guys used to do tablecloths or fabric, like large surface areas. How would you go heat application? Would you go vinyl? Would it depend on the elements?
It depends on the elements. So somebody would come in and say, I want a pop-up tent, or we need a tablecloth for a trade show. We're putting it on there. Well, what's the material you've got? Or am I sourcing it, or are you sourcing it? If I'm sourcing it, I'd probably go with something that's a cloth that they can wash, and now I can do, just a simple vinyl onto it, and it's going to be very durable. If they went to, we're going to do a pop-up tent, and it's polypropylene, like a thin nylon or something like that, that's not real heat resistant, you're going to be in a world of hurt if you try to get that into a heat press, and then how do you get that thing in there and line it up?
Right.
So it boils down to what is the material I'm working on, how am I going to apply it, how many times are they going to use it? Is it something that's going to be outdoor all the time and get some abuse, or are they going to be washing it like a tablecloth? Or is it something that it's a backdrop in there, one and done, or something they put it up, it's up for a couple days, and then they pack it up, and then they put it back out and pack it up.
Let's just say, for example, I know somebody that has...
This is a very specific question coming here, I feel.
That's a job. Yeah. For a heavy woven fabric that's an awning that's outdoors.
It's an awning in front of a business in Grosse Pointe.
What's the material made out of? You
It's
say
like
heavy woven, but is it polyester? Is it nylon?
No. This is like
cotton?
It's probably a nylon.
Is it water resistant? Because you get into those with the coatings on it, and now you're just ready to put your head through a wall.
That is
some of
exactly where I'm at right now.
We used to have a real tough time with that with the fire departments.
Yeah.
Trying to find something
You're
that
not building my confidence here at
and
all.
here's the best part. You can't take it down.
Yeah.
Oof. All right. What's the most aggressive heat transfer vinyl you guys have? I'll admit I'm a little out of touch on the adhesive levels for you guys.
I think it might be subblock.
Probably. That's where my brain goes anyways, just because it's going to be out in the elements.
Is it single color or print cut?
Single color.
Yeah, I was going to say you definitely want to go single color for something like that. Nothing worse than going by and right down the road here on Hall Road, they got that Red Lobster sign, and it looks like a pink lobster.
Yep.
Because the sun's just going to beat up on that. Yeah. But if you got a single color vinyl for that,
it's going to be a white single color vinyl. But what I was thinking of, that's what I was actually where I was going. The reason why too is I don't want any, like I was thinking about, I could use like a high five. You know what I mean?
Is this something you can get down easy and put back up?
Well, and that's where we're at right now. Is like, let's see if we can just take the awning down, and I'll bring my press there. You know what I mean? I can press it in shop.
The problem you're going to have is how big's the awning?
The awning's probably 8 feet.
Okay, how are you going to get to that portion on your press without just?
What I would probably do. So this is
unless you used like a GCC or like an iron or.
Well, this is my thought process. Here's my thought process in my head.
Or could you do pressure sensitive vinyl?
You could, but you're gonna have to go something like that. DPF 8000, something that's got a super high tech industrial.
Yeah.
And they make them out there for like gas pumps and stuff like that, where it's gonna get the gas spilling on it and all this stuff, and it's got to stay on there. And that might be a good option. When you said it was only single color white, that's actually what popped into my head.
That's probably it then. Yeah. All right, well, we'll talk offline about it because I'm curious now.
Yeah.
All sorts of fun projects,
That's
right?
it, man.
Yeah. Okay, real quick before. Well, thank you very much for coming. It's been almost a little over an hour.
This was fun.
It's been a good, entertaining podcast. I didn't get beat up too much, so thank you for that.
Oh, that'll come later.
You've gotten kind of lucky, man. We had Dave in here. We've had Russ in here. You know,
I choose my
Steve in here. We haven't.
I choose my circle wisely. That I like to bring in.
Yeah,
we could roast them, but we're being nice.
Yeah, they're being nice. They're being nice on air. But yeah, before we leave, anything you want to plug? I know Mass Club's a big one.
Yeah, probably massclub.com. And like I said, we've got some big stuff coming down. I'm kind of held up by NDAs, not being able to talk about it. But there's some crazy cool designs, some stuff that a lot of people out there will easily recognize and want.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's I think it should be out by the end of October.
Can you also do custom masks there?
So
too?
we don't. We could and we did for a little while in the beginning to where say I don't know. TBS came to us and said, hey, we need 10,000. I think we did do some of those.
Yeah.
But it's just really hard on the wholesale side of that. So you get a lot more bang for your buck by leveraging the licensing, putting it onto there and selling it through. We sell some through Amazon as well. But the Mass Club, the coolest thing, and I actually forgot about this. I didn't put it out there. For every mask that is sold on there, we also donate. It's not surgical, but one of the blue I guess you call it a surgical mask.
The N95s or like the
not the N95s,
disposables?
the disposables. But we donate one to a charity.
Oh, very cool.
For like a first responder charity. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of a one-for-one thing that they built in the beginning, and we've donated a lot of them.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of a cool way to give back at the same time.
Well, that's cool. I like that. I always like when there's a message and you know, an element of giving back just to the community or anything like that. So it's awesome that they do that for sure, man.
Cool.
Very cool.
Awesome. Thanks for so much for hanging out with us.
Yes.
Good time.
Thank you. Anything else from you?
We're on the website. We officially today we have a place where you can go and give us feedback. So you can actually go on there. So CiserNA.com. You can click on the podcast tab. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, we got some fancy characters under there. Right above those, you can actually put your name, email address, and comments, and communicate with us. So we're going to do that, and then also, something we want to do, just because we're so close. We're at 86, before this I checked, 87 subscribers on YouTube. So I'm going to make a push to get us to 100, and Johan gave me the green light here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a giveaway.
Oh.
All right. So
Nice.
what I'm going to do on Facebook, once this episode airs, I'm going to then post the following day all the details of our giveaway, and we'll call it the Steve giveaway.
Oh, that's
Outstanding.
cool.
That's
Nice.
it. We'll
That's
name
an
it
honor.
after you. But we're going to give some pretty cool stuff, Siser.
Probably that swatch book right
It's
there.
a swatch book. We're just going to pass
Re-gifting.
I'll give you the
It is a
Shrek
cool
mask
gift.
worn by me. Yeah. But no, we're going to do a cool giveaway, and it'll be some Siser products and stuff like that. So
Cool. Awesome.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And
problem.
until next week.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.